So there has been some really great news, especially if you're a lover of survival games, and to be honest, the entire gaming industry. Japanese patent officials reject one of Nintendo's Pokemon patent applications, and this has been really good for Palworld, but because of our beloved ARK and some other games. So we're going to be reading through this brand new article from PC Gamer, and I'm just really glad to see this kind of thing because everything Nintendo has done since Palworld has come out has just been so embarrassing, and I just think it's really been embarrassing for the whole company, them trying to take so much power over something that is just not, you know, so many games use it. You can't, like, it's crazy. So if you do enjoy today's video, drop a like, subscribe, and we're gonna get straight through this as there's some really interesting news. So as we said, Japanese patent officials reject one of Nintendo's Pokemon's patent applications for being too similar to ARK, Monster Hunter, and embarrassingly Pokemon Go. While not directly relevant to the ongoing Palworld lawsuit, the refusal could strengthen Pocket Pair's defense. And as we see here, some of the ARK community, a big name in the ARK community, Mr. Dolphin, says ARK basically saves Palworld. Would be fun if they would do a collab with Survive the ARK, like skins or something like that in the future. Hashtag ARK, hashtag Palworld. And again, someone called Smash JT saying massive W for Palworld in their battle against Nintendo, which is still ongoing. And obviously there was some, Nintendo were leading the race, and you know, they've got so much money to get behind this, and it makes it really unfair for smaller developers. So let's read through this article. So the trio of patents asserted by Nintendo as the basis for its ongoing lawsuit against Palworld developer Pocket Pair represent only a portion of Nintendo's efforts to secure the patent protections for creature capturing, battling, and riding mechanics. Last week, however, the effort hit a hurdle. The Japanese Patent Office rejected one of Nintendo's pending patent applications as failing to demonstrate an inventive step that would differentiate from its prior art. Which, by the way, is absolutely insane that Nintendo are trying to basically say to any other game, you can never create a game that has creature capturing, battling, and riding mechanics, which has been around in ARK for literally years. They've never said anything because they knew they wouldn't get anywhere, but I do believe that ever since Palworld came along, they were really unhappy. Palworld, yes, was very, very similar to Pokemon. I will agree. I would say that easily and happily that Palworld was very, very borderline with what they created. But they created something great. They created something that Nintendo hadn't done, and that's why it was so popular. And Nintendo were upset about that because they'd done something which they knew they couldn't do anything about, but they weren't going to stop at trying to get at Pocket Pair because they were so unhappy with how successful they were with Palworld. So while the patent application in question, is this one here, isn't directly relevant to the Palworld lawsuit, it's related to patents that are, it's the child application of one of the patents asserted into the Nintendo's accusations and itself the parent application of another. The rejection, therefore, could give Pocket Pair a rhetorical opportunity to encourage a similar investigation into the patents it's accused of infringing. So basically what it's saying is it's not the actual lawsuit from Palworld, but it's like kind of involved in the whole thing. And yeah, you know, they failed here. They've tried to overpower so many games by trying to come ahead with this patent and you know, to take away what, you know, and to try and be the only game that is allowed to have, I just think that kind of stuff is sick, really. Like, how can you think that, you know, this is where these big companies get way too confident because, you know, when smaller companies rise together, they will do something great. And I know ARK's not been involved in this lawsuit, but it's just ARK as a brand itself has stopped this from going through, and Monster Hunter and so many others. So the rejected patent application describes the implementation of mechanics for aiming and throwing items to capture or battle creatures, like those used in 2023's Pokemon Legends. For a patent to be granted, the application's claims must demonstrate an innovation unique enough from prior art in the field that merits its protection. In the rejected application, Nintendo claims that the Legends game mechanics constitute a novel of innovation by combining third-person aiming with two modes to throw items that either affect a target character, like stunning it or capturing it, or initiate combat against the target by releasing a creature to battle it. The JPO examiner disagreed because somebody brought receipts, and this looks like someone in the actual, this is the Japan Patent Office Nintendo, has an image of ARK. It literally has ARK Survival here, which is crazy, and it shows the, you guys know there's cryopods in ARK, and in ARK, they came up with, yes, it's always been similar to Nintendo's, throw the Pokeball and capture something kind of thing. But that doesn't mean that they deserve to own that and be the only company that and game that allows you to be able to capture a creature. One of the reasons why cryopods actually came into ARK was because, this is actually really interesting, to improve performance of the game. That's actually helped ARK, and again, it wasn't really something that they came about. Obviously they thought it was a good idea to have in the game, but by cryopodding stuff, it meant that less creatures were spread across the map, which improved a performance massively in ARK. Like in the old days, everyone would just have creatures scattered across the map, and that would really hinder performance. So in its rejection notice, the Patent Office said that it considered a third-party submission which showed that a similar aiming and projectile mechanics existed in games that was before the 2024 application. Among the prior art cited are creature battling systems and status inflicting projectiles in ARK, trank bomb throwing in Monster Hunter, monster catching in Pocket Pair's Craftopia, and even the Pokeball aiming the rectile in Nintendo's own Pokemon Go. In a machine translation of the rejection notice, the JPO said it refused the claims of the application because they could have easily been made by people who have common knowledge in the technical field to which the claimed inventions pertains, as demonstrated by those prior game releases. It's worth noting that the JPO examiner's decision is non-final, and Nintendo has the ability to pursue an appeal with the Japan's High Court, which would be another lengthy process in itself. But while the refusal of the application doesn't directly affect the odds of the Palworld lawsuit, it could give Pocket Pair more space to question the actual how valid it is of the patents being asserted against the game. It gives them kind of a step ahead of something they didn't have before. Games phrase notes, okay, so they're just going again more into, how valid the lawsuit is. It says, meanwhile, considering the bold mods don't count as real games, stance, yeah, because I know a lot of people create mods in games that are very similar to, ARK has mods in the game, which now they have to be a lot more careful with because they have premium mods, so they have to be very careful that they don't sort of touch into the copyright side of things. Many other games have mods in the same that sort of brush into copyright infringement but don't hit it enough, and obviously Nintendo always have an eagle eye out for that, and it's sad that's the way they do things. But again, at the end of the day, it is Nintendo's game. It's their, and if someone does copy something, they have the right to act on it. I know a lot of people have been angry with Nintendo over the years, and I only sort of realized what they were like more recently because I'm not really a massive Nintendo player. Like, I had a Switch once, but I don't dive into it that much. But reading about it and learning what they're like with things, it does kind of make you feel like when this kind of win happens, you feel happy for the other games, because when a big company wants to take on too much, it just takes it that little bit too far. But then again, I do agree with people out there that say, Nintendo have a right to defend themselves when games get a little bit too close, because Palworld was very similar, but they made sure they didn't copy it into a way that was completely the same. So what can you do at the end of the day? But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video, guys. I'm interested to read through and see your guys' feelings and, what you think on this situation. But shout out to ARK, Monster Hunter, and Pokemon Go that seem to have made this a tougher time for Nintendo against their Palworld lawsuit. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.